Hi, welcome to the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal video. My name is Danny Milton, and today we're going to be riding the Canyon Spectral ON. So I was able to ride a bunch of demo bikes at my last trip out to the 2021 Sedona MTB Festival. And when I got there, I wasn't sure if any of the manufacturers were going to bring e-bikes. And I know that I wanted to go down and try out some of the new Canyon bikes. Well, I roll up to the Canyon spot, the Canyon demo tent, and they had a bunch of Spectral ONs. Now, in the past, I've ridden the regular analog or pedal Spectral and liked it a lot, and I've ridden it out there a couple years in a row out in Sedona. So to have the chance to get onto the Spectral e-bike or the ON was really exciting for me. So I'm going to take the Spectral ON out to my test course, which is riding from Posse Fairgrounds down to Soldiers Pass and up to Grand Central. Grand Central has a bunch of different terrains. There's some tight single track techie uphill sections, there's some real chunky downhill sections, a bunch of small drop-off stuff like that. I've also done a video on Grand Central, so you can click that link right there if you want to watch that. Full video on my bike, the Giant Rain E, with the drone following me and all that fun stuff. So let's jump on the bike, get out to the trail, and have some fun. Cruising down Sunrise Trail on my way out to Grand Central. Just left Posse Grounds right now. We're on the Spectral E ON. Really stoked to get a chance to ride this bike. I didn't think they were going to have any e-bikes at the festival here. 150 mil bike. It's more of a kind of in between, kind of like an all mountain trail kind of setup. Got a 66.5 degree head tube angle. At a 74.5 degree seat tube angle. I'll give you the rest of the specs a little bit later in the video. Yeah, this is the first time I've ridden Shimano E8. It's got the display right here in the front. You can see it's got a 630 watt-hour battery. The head tube and the seat tube and all that stuff is a little more steep than I'm used to. I'm used to a little bit of a slacker bike, more of an enduro type. Just in eco mode right now, and it feels pretty good. Haven't gone up anything steep yet. We'll talk about that later. Fair amount of power though in eco mode. This is a mullet bike. We've got a 29er in the front, 27.5 in the rear. We've got XT drivetrain, XT brakes. On this model, this is the CF7. This model has the RockShox on it. I believe it's a Super Deluxe on the front and a single tube shock in the rear. Test out how the bike feels. Pretty good. So trail mode has a lot of power. Just doing this little flat rock stuff right here, but this last little part to climb up, you gotta kind of lean forward and get on. Pretty easy. A lot of power in that trail mode. Whew. Going into Soldiers Pass right here. Got some little techie stuff back and forth. So far the bike feels really good, pretty responsive on the turning. We'll have to see. Sometimes 29ers are a little slow in their turn radius and have a little bit of understeer. Something that if the bike does have it, you can get used to it. But I'm coming from a 27.5 bike, front tire, and very quick and nimble. This bike's doing a good job though. It feels nice. The front end is definitely lighter than my bike. Both times I went off that drop, I lifted the front end a little too much, but it was still a nice soft landing. So now we start the climbing bit. I'm in trail mode. So I did this, oh, wrong gear. Did this trail a couple times yesterday on my bike, Giant Rain E, and pretty easy. I did it, just doing it in my comparable version of a trail mode. It's not a lot of climbing, but it's definitely narrow single track and some rocks you have to manage. I just had a pedal strike right there, just a light little tap. Morning.
Good morning.
Never hurts to be nice to hikers, or at least cordial. So far it's doing a really good job. Plenty of power in trail mode. Hopefully the drone does a good job following us, because I forgot my beacon mount. Woo. Bike's doing good so far. It's handling all the chunk. Yeah, boy. All right. Able to get that section a little bit better than I was yesterday, because I could actually see it. Oh yeah, bike's nice and plush. That little drop off back there, I landed. First time I landed, pretty much both tires at the same time, and hit nice and soft. Doesn't seem to be understeering at all. Yep, landed that pretty decently. Oh, thank you, just me. Got the bike in trail mode. Feels pretty good. I like the Shimano setup. Oh yeah, sent that one pretty decently. Great stopping power. Nice and nimble through that hard left turn there. These little marbles you gotta be careful of. These little bunches of these rocks get a little sideways and front end might slide out on you. All right, flat stuff. Bike feels really good. I really like this mullet configuration. Just a little worried about the stack height. Yeah, I took an even better line through there this time. Drone's still on us. Very awesome, or at least it's keeping up with us. Whew. All right, got in a little trouble there and able to pull it back pretty good with the bike. Oh yeah, easy to get up in the air. Those little bump, kind of lifty jumps. Yeah, very fun ride, very fun ride. So the bike handled really well. The 29er in the front was still really nimble. I didn't have any understeer or anything like that. Going off all of the senders, you know, rock senders, maybe 1 or 2 feet at the max, jumping off of those. Bike landed really solidly. Maybe not quite as plush as, like, you know, a better shock, but for the entry-level shock, the entry-level rock shocks, it did really well. I can't even imagine how good this bike would feel. You know, you put like a Fox 36 Elite on the front and like a X2 in the rear. This thing would be like riding a cloud. Pedaled really well. Trail mode had plenty of power. I haven't even tried it in turbo yet. I do have plenty of battery. 630 watt hours is just amazing. So did a good run. It felt really good first run. We're going to climb back up, do a little bit more climbing, see how it's doing there. The climbing to do here, I got some steeper little sections like this. It does feel like I have to lean a little bit more forward to keep that front tire down. The rake is, not the rake, the stack is definitely higher on this bike than say like a normal bike with a 27.5 in the front. So not quite used to that yet. It's a different look. When you're looking down at the handlebars, it looks like the handlebars are much closer to you. But going downhill, it was amazing. A couple times on the climb, it seemed like that front tire would come up a little bit too much. Like I'd have to really lean down into it to keep that front tire on the ground from lifting. Even one time I kind of wheelied a little too quickly going up some rocks that wasn't expecting. But like this stuff here, it's feeling really good. Nice and planted. Not quite sure what the weight is. I didn't look at the weight. It definitely feels lighter than my bike. But my bike's a beast and it has a lot more suspension, which is going to equal more weight. The Yamaha motor on my bike is probably twice the size of this EP8 with a smaller battery, but it probably weighs more than this setup. Man, I had such a blast on this bike. It was much more capable than I thought it would be. You know, I'm used to riding enduro bikes, you know, anywhere from, you know, my Giant Rain E has 180 mil fork with 160 millimeters of travel in the rear. I wasn't quite sure how well I was going to feel on this bike because it's only a 150, but it did really well. I was really surprised on how good it felt on the trail. And that's with, you know, the lower suspension that comes on this model, the CF7, I believe. The motor had plenty of power. The Shimano EP8, you know, in trail mode did really well. It supplied plenty of power at the lower RPMs and the faster RPMs. You know, when I'm climbing up sections, there was no lag, you know, when you first start into that hill. Sometimes the Yamaha motor on my bike will lag as you start to go up that hill and then start to kick in. But the EP8 motor did great. I really like the Shimano kind of display. It's very small. It's right next to the stem, but it does show you a lot of information. It shows your miles per hour, your battery, what mode you're in, and how much power that you are using. So in the past, I've ridden some bikes that have 29ers in the front, and sometimes those front ends will kind of understeer a little bit, and not so with this bike at all. This bike was super playful. It was very quick and nimble back and forth through a lot of the turns. So if you do want to see more information about the Canyon Spectral On, just go to Canyon's site. You're going to be able to find all of the geometry and all the different specs and all of the different parts that you can get on the different models. You know, I would definitely go for a model with more Fox suspension, like a Fox 36, maybe a Fox 38. I'm not exactly sure what comes on the top model, but I really like the Fox suspension over the RockShox. It's just a personal preference. I'm really used to the Fox 36 I have on my bike and the Float X2 in the rear. Even with that RockShox entry-level suspension on it, it only had a single tube in the rear, and I'm a pretty big guy, and you know, those single tube shocks sometimes don't support my weight. You know, you have to really pump them up with a lot of pressure to try to keep them, you know, in the sag level. And this one did a really good job. You know, you don't really worry too much about sag when you have an e-bike, because you know, you have an e-bike and you have power and you're not really worried about it. So you just kind of mash through that kind of stuff and have fun. And this bike was a lot of fun. I had a great time on it. So this was just a short 2-hour demo ride. I had this bike, you know, to get a really full in-depth review. I'd like to ride it at least a couple more times. Hopefully, if the Canyon store down in Carlsbad opens up, I'll be able to go down there and demo this bike at least a couple more times. So this is kind of just a, you know, a short review of this bike. I had a really good time on it. It's a really fun bike. I like the way it looks. You know, the battery is a 630 watt-hour battery, so definitely get some miles out of that as well. All right, so hopefully you found this useful. Do all that fun stuff for me, please. Smash that like button, share, comment. Definitely comment on this video if you have any questions about the bike. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. If not, like I said, you can go to the Canyon website. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a couple more demo rides coming from Sedona. I also rode the YT Decoy Core 4, and I also rode the Norco Sight. Those reviews will be coming soon, or those previews will be coming soon. So once you are subscribed, make sure you click that bell notification so that you do get notified when those new videos come out. And last but not least, click on one of the boxes in the corners. One will take you to a rides playlist, another to a favorite video, and you can click the logo over there, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks a lot.